On that note,
We can go live if you like.
probably should.
Welcome everyone to our live show. Hope you're all doing well today. Welcome back. I mean, today we've got a very, very, I don't know how to describe it today's show. It's going to be an interesting one, but futile, I think. Regarding e-fuels, there's been a lot of news and things about e-fuels and how Germany can't seem to make its mind up about whether or not it wants to stick to the 2035 ICE ban and whether or not the UK will follow suit. Yeah, that's what we're going to be discussing today. Is there anything else, Wifey, we're going to be discussing? That's pretty much it, isn't it?
I think so.
Then yeah, we'll have a chat with you guys at the end. All right, Wifey, you ready?
Yeah.
Let's roll the intro. Hey Dope, how you doing, mate? Good to see you. Yeah, it's been a little while since we've seen you around. Yeah, I hope you're doing all right, mate. Yeah, hope you're doing well. Let us know how it's going with your bike situation. You know what you're looking to do in the near future, because yeah, it's been a few months now, isn't it? Since
yeah, I think so.
since you were in your accident, wasn't it? So yeah, fingers crossed you're doing all right with that. But how are we doing, Wifey?
Good.
How are we doing? Are we doing all right?
We're doing wonderfully.
Is there anything interesting that we've been doing this week? Well, I mean, I had the week from hell this week from a motorcycle perspective.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah. I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but watch tomorrow's video. I'm committed now to releasing it. I had thought about not doing it, but I've got to, because it can just show how bad things can get when it comes to practicing certain things. So yeah.
I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at him.
Yeah.
Just like
this guy. You all right? He really wants his mummy today. Go on, just let him
Go
cuddle
then.
you for a bit. There we go.
Oh my gosh, he made it.
So anyway, without dwelling too much on what happened last weekend on filming, what else have we been up to this week? Got some new really massive, mega sound speakers. So all of our neighbours are going to absolutely hate us.
They're good fun though. I've been playing Red Dead using them, and I said to you, have to turn the bass
into
down
the TV at the moment.
because when I gallop on that horse, it's like it trembles. It's just ridiculous how loud it is. It's amazing,
they're
but a bit
stupid.
bassy for that.
They are stupid. So we bought them mainly because we're having like a little party next week on Good Friday, and we needed an upgrade to our sound system.
So instead of buying
I kind of went over the top.
a speaker set, when we went to Curry's, we were like, let's get those.
Yeah,
And they look fun.
yeah, the big, but like towers. So they've got a speaker and two woofers on top, one on top of the other.
I went to bed on Saturday and there was one. Woke up on Sunday and a second one had been ordered.
Yeah, because we needed a pair.
It does look, yeah, it does. It is
was
better.
lonely on its own.
Yeah, I need a friend.
Yeah, so spent a small fortune on those. But yeah, what else? What else have we been doing? What?
That's new.
No. Yeah, I told everyone about my phone last week.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I got it on Thursday last week.
Did you?
Which I've already dropped in my bathtub, by the way.
I couldn't remember. Clearly,
I told you, this last week's been the week from hell, man.
Yeah, I don't know why
Honestly.
I forgot.
But it's working absolutely fine. Luckily, this fourth generation Galaxy Fold phone, it's water resistant up to 1.5 meters.
I think literally like 2 days beforehand, you said, "Hey, look, it looks like I can take my phone in the bath," and then you came down, you were like, "Just works water resistant," and dropped it.
What an idiot! Honestly,
not
the
been your week,
week
has it?
from hell this week for me anyway, because I've just been breaking stuff.
Mm.
So I broke our old speaker system. I broke 2 of the speakers as well because my original idea was to buy a whole new DAC, but it had too much power going through it.
Blew it up.
I literally fried our old speaker system.
I think it was on purpose, but
I sabotaged them. Yeah.
Yeah, I want a big speaker.
No, it wasn't deliberate at all. But yeah, because I mean, I thought that those speakers could handle more than what the original DAC could.
Boy, were
could
you wrong.
do. And no, they couldn't. They were at their peak already.
Yeah.
So there you go. They were only cheap speakers anyway. They were like 10-watt speakers or something. I don't know. But yeah, so not a fantastic week this week.
Not for you, no.
Not for me. Oh dear. Yeah. You'll find out tomorrow why I'm so depressed right now. But anyway, all right. Let's crack on with the main topic of today's show, wifey. E-fuels. What do you think? Do you know what they are? E-fuels.
After I asked you, now I do, yeah.
Okay. So for those of you that don't know, so e-fuels are the whole idea is that the pollutant gases that cars emit get captured by some kind of machinery, which then converts those gases into fuel that can then go back into cars. So it's supposed to be like this cycle. So you produce, the car kind of like uses gases, gets taken in, and then it resynthesizes fuel from the gases that it captures from the atmosphere. So in theory, it's supposed to be like this big solution to the big problem that we've got with ICEs at the moment, because at the moment they're just polluting, and we're not, and that's it, you know. But the whole idea is that they're supposed to be kind of zero emission, because in theory all the emissions that you are pumping out into the atmosphere, you're extracting from the atmosphere and then reusing them again. So it's supposed to be kind of like recycling the whole, you know, the whole thing. But anyway, so I won't go into too much kind of detail just yet on my opinion on the matter. But basically, it's causing a bit of a ruckus in the European community because we've got these deadlines now for the ban of ICE sales. In the UK, it's 2030, and in Europe, it's 2035. That's with cars anyway. The motorcycle ban, I think, is 5 years later. I think it's 2035 in the UK for motorcycle ICE. So bike companies have got a little bit of extra leeway. But yeah, so this is kind of like, I think, is it Porsche that have been really pushing e-fuels recently? I think it's been Porsche, but yeah, so it's just in a way to try and keep ICEs on the road. And well, there's been, I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably heard on the news at some point about what's been going on, because it's every day for the last couple of weeks I've been seeing new articles about it, on what's happening, and it looks like the European Parliament have come to some kind of agreement on whether or not e-fuels are going to allow the sale of ICEs after 2035. But I don't know. I suppose that remains to be seen. The UK seems to be like holding firm, don't they, at the moment, according to the latest news surrounding e-fuels. So yeah, boring old England as always.
It says some because I've read quite a few articles, haven't I? Just while waiting, it says that because we've left the EU or what have you, we no longer have to comply with like what they decide to do. Doesn't necessarily say what we have to do.
That was the whole point.
And therefore, it's a case of, will the UK do this? But it should be a case of, when will the UK do this, not, you know, will they actually be doing it?
See, I was kind of hoping that the whole Brexit thing would actually give us a little bit more leeway in the opposite direction. I didn't actually expect the UK government to be like, right, no, we're going to accelerate the targets. I'd have thought they'd maybe let them go a little bit longer. But you got all these Green Party members, unfortunately, now that are very, very. They're pushing a lot for these. Well, these targets, these bannings.
I think the thing is, though, it's all right for those people who are in the government, who have their, really big parties and lavish lifestyles and all those massive paychecks, because them coming in and having all the infrastructure put in for a charging port and for all this is easier than the average Joe.
I mean, I don't want to go into too much about the whole electric infrastructure thing, because I think that's something for another day. I think we've spoken about it before anyway.
What I'm saying is that their view on life doesn't always necessarily be realistic to everyone else's view.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. I mean, that's always the case, isn't it?
Well, that's it.
I mean,
But
I can't
the
remember.
decisions that they think they're making for the greater good, it doesn't benefit anyone, because the normal average Joe person who, let's say, is were earning between, let's be conservative, £33,000 to £40,000 a year. That's the decisions they make don't benefit.
They're not
people.
representative, are they, of most people?
Because they're not. Sorry, just before we move on, they're not living in the real world. They're not living on a day-to-day paycheck. They're not, as some people happen to do, living like month to month, paycheck to paycheck.
Well, a lot of their lifestyle are paid for the taxpayer as well, anyway.
Yeah,
so
and all their expenses are paid for.
But I can't remember if we spoke about e-fuels before. We probably have on the live show, but just because we've had all this, like I said earlier, this kind of ruckus going on within the European community as to whether or not it's going to totally destabilise their plans to ban ICEs, we thought it'd be a good idea to kind of discuss whether or not it's something that could actually happen. I mean, I'm going to just come out and say it. I don't think it is. I don't think it's going to make a blind bit of difference. So there's quite a lot. It's a load of articles kind of describing what e-fuels are and kind of like a load of differing opinions on how effective e-fuels would be and things. And it's a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. Because us enthusiasts, we want the ICE to stay around, the internal combustion engine. Things like this are quite welcoming because it gives us another avenue to keep our ICEs on the road, or at least be able to buy new ones in the future. But the thing is about this is that, oh man. So one question that I do have is whether or not current existing ICEs would be able to run on e-fuels because they're synthetic, or would there be like conversion kits and things like that to allow them to run on e-fuels?
So in one of the articles I read,
it
does say, if you don't mind me going on to this,
go for it. Which article is that one?
This the one I told you that I liked, the
Express one.
So if you just go down a bit further,
here we go, so you guys can see what we
this
see.
This just answers your question. So go down.
Whereabouts are we looking? Ooh.
There. So it says any vehicle which could run on e-fuels would have a fueling inducement system.
Okay, so they do actually need something. So they'd
have to do something because it would prevent the car from working if it were filled with conventional petrol or diesel.
Right.
So you'd have to put some sort of, I guess, converter. I don't know. That it could only accept, like, how if you put a diesel in a petrol car, it wouldn't work. It'd be something like that, but e-fuel.
Yeah. So basically, then ICEs would have to be almost redesigned to allow the use of these synthetic fuels.
But I mean, what about? I mean, it does beg the question whether it's something you can then say we're average Joe and we've just got a Peugeot 206 and we can't afford a new car, but we want to run e-fuel. Well, can we go to the mechanic and be like, put this system in my car?
So, the thing is, when it comes to that, there's not going to be an issue because the sale of fuel isn't getting banned.
No. Regular
pump fuel. It's not getting banned. So anyone that has older cars, they'll still be able to run their old car basically into the ground. Well, that remains to be seen, I suppose, as well, doesn't it? Whether or not they will actually introduce harsher restrictions on cars that are still running on traditional fuels.
What it also says in this article is that cars that run on e-fuels will have their own... what's the word I'm looking for? I'm just going to find it. One sec. Because I don't want to get the word wrong.
Have their own... Like, what's the context?
So how you have, like, petrol and diesel...
Oh, right. So it would be kind of like its own thing. It'll have its own pump. It'll have its own. Well,
no, that's
in a
not
perfect.
quite what I mean.
Oh, right. Okay.
Sorry. I know. I don't know why, but I just can't think of this word.
That happens to me a lot.
It would have like.
How many times have you guys heard me going, "Oh, what's the word?"
Oh, it would become a new category of vehicle.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I imagine like the road tax would be different, and potentially insurance would be different.
Oh, I don't know about insurance.
But you know what I mean? Like there'll be different. It'll sit in a different category.
So the main question here, and this could be the saving grace of e-fuels, right? Is because ICE cars traditionally are cheaper to manufacture than electric cars. So when you go to buy an electric car, at the moment they're very expensive, and even though they have been going down in price over the last few years, they're still very pricey compared to traditional internal combustion engine cars. But the cost of e-fuel is going to be higher.
Yes,
because it's synthetic. It's like synthetic oil. Synthetic oils are more expensive because they're made in a lab and things like that. So I imagine it's a very similar thing. Now, would the offset of how cheap ICEs can be made compared to electric, would that offset be enough to keep ICEs on the road, or because the cost of e-fuels is going to be massive compared to what we have right now, would it just not be better to just fork out a little bit more money for an electric option instead?
So this article says, towards the very bottom of the article, Stephanie, regional lead at the International Council on Clean Transportation, said in 2020 e-fuels won't save the internal combustion engine. A report stated that significant volumes of renewable e-fuels wouldn't be made for less than €3 or €4 per litre by 2030.
So it's going to be very expensive.
But that's only 7 years, 2030.
Well, I mean, right, okay, this person's a little bit naive, though, from my opinion, because it's not being mass-produced yet.
No, it's not.
If it is mass-produced and we have more efficient ways of being able to extract these emissions, these gases from the atmosphere, and have more efficient ways of synthesizing them, I have no doubt that the more demand that there is for it, the cheaper it will get, because, that these companies will be forced to manufacture more of it. Yeah. So I actually think that I don't think that's a valid argument personally, especially like the way how that's how everything works, isn't it? Is as things get mass produced, they become cheaper, and there's not many cars, if any cars, at the moment that run on e-fuel. So what's the motivation behind buying or mass producing e-fuel? There isn't. Or no, I mean, I don't know. I was going to suggest something like being able to synthesize current fuels, but at the same time there'd be no point in doing that because that's what we're already doing. That's what E10 is. E10 is, so it has 10% ethanol, which is supposed to be like a cleaner burning, it's alcohol, but it's supposed to be cleaner burning than the petrol. So we're already trying to make current fuels as less pollutive as possible, or less pollutant as possible. But anyway, yeah. So what's that chart there?
So
is that on this article as well?
That's on this article. I think it's keep going. There we go. So this is what the over from 2019 to 2021, the types of cars that are being registered. So you can obviously see that diesel's going down. Yeah. BEV, which is battery electric vehicles, is slowly going up.
What, BEV?
HEV is hybrid electric vehicles, and that also is slowly going up. Whereas petrol is, obviously petrol is going down.
Because even like if hybrid electric vehicles are going up in sales, that makes no sense because they will still be banned.
Yes, they will.
In 2030, they'll still be banned.
Yeah.
So those of you that are buying hybrids, why? Why are you buying hybrids now? There's no point. There's no point buying diesels because diesel fuel is far too expensive and the taxes are absolutely ridiculous these days. So the only options you really have when it comes to buying a new car is petrol or electric.
Is a hybrid car more expensive than a petrol car?
They are, yeah. They are. They're not quite as expensive as full EV, but they are a bit more expensive.
Because the new Civic is a hybrid.
Is it?
Believe so.
No.
I'm sure it is.
There'll be a version of it, I imagine. But no, not all of them will be hybrids.
I feel like the dog's about to fall off my lap.
No way. Because I think they still use the inline fours, the inline 4-cylinder.
New Honda Civic full hybrid.
Yes, that's one version.
Yeah.
That's one model of the new Civic that they brought. Again, why? What's the point? Why are these manufacturers doing it?
I don't
suppose
like the look of it anyway.
in other markets like Asia, the United States, and things like that, then it doesn't matter. But EVs, I suppose, will, especially the plug-in hybrids, they make more sense. But weird. I don't quite understand that. But
I know this is off topic, but how disgusting does the new Civic look? Don't like it. Don't like it at all. Personal preference. Moving on.
I don't mind the look of it personally.
No. In person, I think it belongs in the bin.
Yeah. Well.
That's just me.
All right. So anyway, e-fuels basically it's kind of like as if companies will have to try and commit again more R&D into developing engines specifically for e-fuels.
No, I'm going to come across as really naive here.
Okay.
Prepare yourself. Darn.
Darn it.
Do you think, if any, off the top of your head, if you can think of any, if any, companies that might go bust because they just can't afford to put the R&D into researching and creating electric cars?
That's tough.
It's just a thought. Like,
okay, so when you think about cars at the moment, so you think of traditional ICE. An ICE car, all the materials that it's made out of are inexpensive. Aluminium or aluminum, steel, iron. It's mostly made out of those things. Very, very cheap materials. EVs, on the other hand, they're not. They're made out of precious materials.
Yeah.
Cobalt, lithium at the moment are very finite materials. And even though the production is increasing, the demand is also increasing. But because the material is finite, it's pushing the price up of things like cobalt.
Because desirable.
And there's, I don't know how many countries at the moment are producing cobalt, but the biggest one I think is the Congo.
So let's take for example Royal Enfield as a company. They are itty bitty tiny company compared to the likes of Suzuki or Kawasaki, or let's say Porsche, Lamborghini.
I was going to say
companies like that. Do you think they're going to survive?
The investment would have to be a lot more.
Or they'd have to be taken under the wing of another company who can do it.
That's probably what will happen.
Like get swallowed by some conglomerate.
Yeah, that's probably what will happen. I mean, people are saying that about Tesla already. That companies like Volkswagen, for example, or the Volkswagen Group will be able to outproduce Tesla and probably even make a loss on their EVs just to undercut Tesla, and no one will buy Teslas. So the Tesla company might go under as a result because they simply aren't competitive. But I mean, I don't know. I think that remains to be seen. Because so far, if you look at any electric car that has come out in the last, or any electric motorcycles, electric anything that you can think of that's on the roads today, they are not cheaper than the ICE version. No. And we've been having this. Well, this has been happening for nearly 10 years now. The manufacture, the development of EVs has been around for a long time, and we still haven't found a way to make them cheaper. No, not yet.
And this is the thing. So, my friend is getting a electric car through work. Do you know how much it's going to cost her, or salary sacrifice for her to have the electric unit put in her house?
Oh. Salary sacrifice to have the electric unit put in the house. What, so she paying it like a rental? So
so the car, she'll have the car as like a lease through work, but she has to pay for the electric port to go in. It's going to cost her £1,000 just for the port.
Well, yeah, I'm not surprised.
Just mad.
I'm not surprised. Think so. I mean, it's enough. It's right. I don't actually mind that because it's £1,000 that you're investing in your own infrastructure. Once you've paid it, that's it.
But can you? What happens when you move house?
Well, exactly.
Can you take it with you?
Well, no, you wouldn't. It'd be
So you have
it'd be
So you
permanently
either have
plumbed
to
in.
find a house that's already got one, or pay another £1,000 to have one put in.
But that's the idea, though, is that eventually everyone will have these chargers. And remember, with EVs, you can charge them in your wall sockets. They're not as efficient. It'll take forever to charge, but you can still do it. So it's a choice whether or not you want one of these like proper chargers. But the idea is that at some point everyone's going to have EVs, so everyone's going to want to invest in a charging station inside their garage and things like that. And then so when you move house, once you've paid for it, that's it. You've got you got it there. And I don't know, right? Unless there are like certain upgrades and things like that in future where batteries will be able to charge faster, higher voltages and things like that, and higher currents, then maybe they'd need to be changed or upgraded then. But
What about solar panel cars?
no chance. But yeah, so the biggest argument against e-fuels at the moment is, as like this article was saying, is in the sense that it's just too expensive. It's not efficient and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And also as well, if I'm not mistaken, some articles, some journalists have even said that the whole e-fuel thing is a myth, that it's zero emission. Because it doesn't matter how much you resynthesize the gases from the atmosphere, you're still always going to have pollutants that you're not going to be able to extract.
It's like saying something is alcohol free. It always has at least 0.5% of alcohol in it.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as alcohol free.
Yeah.
When it comes to...
So even though we would be massively reducing the emissions impact of ICEs, we wouldn't be getting rid of it completely. No. But by the same token, this also applies to EVs. Because where do countries get their electricity from?
Thor.
From Thor. From gas, coal, crude oil, and nuclear. You've also got wind power and other things like that.
But
the main places still throughout the world is coal and gas.
Yeah.
So even if you charge up your car today, the process of getting that electricity to your EV is still producing emissions to this day.
Yeah.
And when you have countries like Germany as well, because like Germany, I don't understand Germans, right? So they are really pushing to have this 2035 cutoff point for the ban of ICEs, but then they're closing down all of their nuclear power stations and reopening coal plants.
Yeah.
What is... That makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever.
They're taking it out of one hand and putting it back in the other.
So it's stupid. So from Germany's perspective, e-fuels actually make far more sense because they don't want to have nuclear power plants that are dangerous and radioactive and all that, which is actually a load of nonsense, by the way. Nuclear power is actually some of the safest power you can have. It's the truth. It is the truth. Nuclear power is like... In terms of our electricity needs, nuclear power right now is the way forward, and Germany doesn't agree. God, it winds me up, man. Winds me up. Because we have this technology here, and as well, nuclear is sustainable as well. Even though the uranium is a finite resource, you can recycle it.
Yeah.
No, nuclear waste you can actually recycle into power plants again, into nuclear power plants.
So, again, sorry for my continued stupidity here. So, when we get to 2030, 2035, whenever this thing comes in, that new cars can only be electric. Say I want to go get rid of my car and I want to buy a brand new car. What happens to my old car? Like, does it get scrapped? Does it get broken down?
That's actually a really good point.
Like, what happens to all the components of my car?
So, at this point, it's only the sale of new cars that will be banned. The sale of used cars
I know,
is still available.
What I'm saying is, what if I thought, no, I want to get a brand new electric Porsche. I'm going to treat myself.
Yeah.
I want to get a Mackie. I'm going to treat myself. But my old car,
you sell it?
I know, but let's just say I didn't. Let's just take that option off the table. If I had to scrap my car, for argument's sake, what would happen to it?
Well, it would be waste. Simple as that. It'd be scrappage.
But It's just going to sit in a tip then in parts.
No.
They get
So
cubed and sit there.
cars. A lot of the parts. In a lot of modern cars, parts are recyclable. You can scrap them, and the scrap value of a car that never goes away.
But the engine, what would happen to the engine?
They'll melt it down. They'll recycle the individual components.
Fair enough.
You can recycle the aluminium, you can recycle the steel, the iron. Basically, all the materials, all the core materials, can be recycled. With lithium batteries, that's a bit more of a question mark, whether or not you can actually recycle lithium batteries.
Is it
Because
true?
at the moment, I don't think we can.
Is it true? Now, this could just be one of those myths that you hear online and, Chinese whispers and all. If you have a Tesla and your battery dies, you have to get a whole new car. You can't just get the battery replaced.
Well,
is that true?
I don't know. I saw that on articles that Tesla were changing the way how they were making their cars, so they didn't have battery cells. They had batteries that were built into the frame of the car. So basically, yeah, in order to get a new battery, you would have to buy a whole new car.
So then
because you can't replace a whole frame. There's no point.
So then what would happen to that battery?
It becomes e-waste.
Yeah.
Like right now, this is the issue right now with e-waste, is that all the laptops and phones and things like that, if you throw them away, they just end up in landfill. They're hardly recycled. The only way you recycle a phone these days, or a laptop, is actually to refurbish it, try and get it back into working order. And that's, you can't recycle the materials of PCBs. Of circuit boards, you can't.
I mean, there are some really great charities out there that if you've got a phone that's like old and you can't sell it, but it still works, they send it to third world countries.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So, but then it becomes someone else's problem.
Yeah, exactly. You're just
really
exporting the problem to another country.
But
so
no, it's just interesting that at this point in time, if I scrapped my car, then it would all the parts would get reused, melted down, redistributed.
It'd be recycled. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing would come back as a Coke can,
Well, or it'll be going to manufacturing again,
into
aluminium billets or what have you.
Well, that's it. You see my point.
Yeah.
But if at the moment I've got a Tesla and I'm like, oh my god, the battery's gone, I've got to change the whole new car.
To be fair,
the battery just goes and sits in a pile of waste.
There'll still be parts that you can recycle in
an
EV. But the frame will still be able to recycle.
The whole thing can't be.
The biggest cost, i.e. being the battery, at the moment, I don't think there is a way that we can recycle batteries.
So it's kind of, in a way, robbing Peter to pay Paul, because we're taking away the fact that we can fully recycle this current car, giving it a car that, so we're saying, hey, we're taking away the pollution because it's not going to be polluting the environment, blah, blah, blah. But what we're going to do is we're actually now going to have to go make massive holes in the ground and put loads of waste in the ground and cover it up.
I mean, so
we're making pollution in a different way.
Well, in a perfect world, when it comes to EVs, you would have all your power, all your electricity would come from a renewable source, whether that be solar, wind, sea, nuclear, whatever it might be, and then the power gets used in the car, propelling the car forward, and then so you've constantly got this cycle of energy, reusable and renewable energy going into your car, use the energy, renewable energy goes back in. So you're never ever taking something away to power the car. It's supposed to be, again, this kind of cycle of it doesn't need anything to continue running it. That's like the utopia. That's the ideal situation for EVs. But the reality of it, they're not like that.
No.
Especially in the current battery tech that we have. So, I mean, this is one of the biggest reasons why a lot of these questions are being raised about other ways that we could power cars, because, again, I mean, going back to the whole e-fuel thing, we get to stay the same. Everything gets to stay the same. We drive the same way we drive. We get to experience our nice noises that our car makes and things like that. Our motorcycles, what they make, because that's part of the experience, isn't it? Hearing the engine roar is part of the experience of driving or riding.
I don't want to get in a car and feel like I'm on a milk float.
Well, precisely. So for a lot of people, including myself, I don't see why e-fuels in future couldn't be a viable alternative to electric. And we need that. We need the kind of... It's like petrol and diesel. You know, you don't just want everywhere using petrol. You don't want everywhere just using diesel. So we've got an option of both. I think we should also have the same option, whether or not we want to go electric or synthetic fuel. I think we should have that choice. And the fact that governments, especially the UK government, are so dismissive of other things other than electric, I think is so backwards. You know, there are other things that we could be doing. You know, the whole hydrogen thing. I don't believe in hydrogen personally. You got the hydrogen fuel cell, which is basically just another electric car. So it's not really hydrogen. It's just hydrogen powering a battery, and then you have electric motors. You got the hydrogen combustion engine, which is just a total failure. Never going to work in a million years, mainly because of where you're going to store the hydrogen. You need a tank the size of your boot to store the amount of hydrogen you need to actually propel you forward, not to mention all the other problems that actually come with this unstable gas when you burn it. You know, it causes internal engine problems and things. But we shouldn't close off we shouldn't be so narrow-minded or narrow-viewed on where future propulsion should be. So it's like jet engines aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So we're still going to need traditional fuels for jet fuel, for jet engines, helicopters, boats, for God's sake. These massive cargo boats, they run on diesel. I mean, you're not just going to get rid of all the diesel, are you?
Can you imagine a cruise ship on electricity?
Yeah. The thing is, right, so when it comes to all this stuff, the end consumers of cars, motorcycles, and what have you, they are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the amount of fuel that is used on a daily basis. The amount of fuel that gets used by industries for planes, for transport, for cargo ships, for pretty much anything, including generating electricity, that is massive. It's still a massive problem, which isn't going to get solved just because these governments are telling us that we have to go to electric cars. That's not the answer. You know, that's not the answer to all of our problems. So, but anyway, I mean that's a whole different argument anyway. But I want to see the potential in other means. The issue is that we don't have a lot of time to do it.
No.
I suppose. What'd you say that lady was called in this article? Stephanie, was it?
Yeah.
How she was saying how, you know, by 2035 or 2030, e-fuels aren't going to make a dent in the market because it's not going to be mass produced enough. That might be true, because that isn't a lot of time. And you know, and I think what you're saying is right as well about how it's going to stifle innovation. It's also going to, because governments are forcing companies to invest in a particular technology. Why not, instead of governments dictating what to do, why not provide investment or allow the companies that are actually trying to figure these things out, allow their engineers to come up with the answers, rather than pigeonholing everyone into electric? I don't know. Maybe that's something else.
It's a bunch of old men sitting in a room saying, let's do that, with absolutely no information and no... I mean, where have they got... I don't know. But where have they
They're not engineers, they're not
experts.
That's
what I'm saying. Where have they got their information and their scientific fact that this is the right thing to do?
Oh.
Where have they got the information that in 7 years' time this is achievable?
It's not the information that they're getting that's the problem. It's the pressure that they've got on lobbying. So a great example is that the Green Party in the UK at the moment has a lot of sway in politics when it comes to these kinds of issues. And okay, what they're trying to do is for the best, without a doubt, you know, trying to create cleaner environments and things like that, clean air. You know, I don't think anyone disagrees with that. But the biggest issue is the time frame that governments are setting for all this. Because if you set something that is far too quick, then you're just going to shock an entire industry. You're going to shock the entire world and especially if you're investing everything into one single solution, which arguably is not the solution. Unless we can find new battery technologies that can charge up in 5 minutes and they can give us 200 or 300 miles of range, there has to be an incentive for us to actually transition to electric. Whether it's better performance, better range, or whether it's cheaper, something like that. There has to be that incentive there, and at the moment there isn't.
It's like I said, I just think smaller companies who don't have all this I don't know, who aren't huge, who don't have all this R&D budget behind them, are going to be stifled and they're going to fall off the face of the earth.
I don't know. I don't
Unless
know.
the government actually say, right, here's a budget or here's a support package to help you do what you need to do.
I think companies can be... I don't think that's going to be such an issue personally. You look at all these companies and they all had humble beginnings. You know? You look at Ford, Honda, Mercedes, they all had very, very humble beginnings, these massive companies. But so there's nothing... It all comes down to innovation and what new ideas get inspired by these engineers, really. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I know. I appreciate what you're saying. But at the same time, those companies now that are what, 40, 50, 60 years old are in a really good position where they can go, right, this set of team, go work on that. We're going to continue doing this. Whereas anyone who's new has now got to go, right, we've got to try and figure out electric technology, which is more expensive than what we were planning to do.
I don't know. You only need one person to have, like, an idea.
It's not the idea I'm talking about, though. It's
totally
the money.
Revolutionises.
It's not the idea. It's the financial side of it that I'm talking about.
But that's the thing. With anything, you can make it small scale. Anything.
But when you've got all these companies who are doing, you know, Porsche doing them, and you've got Tesla who've got this wide range of cars, Honda are getting on the bandwagon, and then you're this little startup who's trying to compete with all of them.
Okay, let's take Honda as a perfect example. Honda, when it first started manufacturing, motorcycles, but even more so cars, the competition it had was vast, even in just Japan. Toyota was huge back then in Japan, and Honda had to compete with Toyota. Honda had to compete with all the German companies, all the American companies, you know, all the European brands, and they started making cars in the late 60s, early 70s, and look at them now. From one guy, or from a small team of people. That's what I mean. I don't think that will change all that much.
We'll see.
But
we'll come back in 10 years and we'll see if Royal Enfield's still around.
Well, I think it still will be, but they'll be bought out by someone else.
Okay, Royal Enfield as they are right now, I mean.
Well, I don't think they're independent already.
I don't know.
I think they're owned already by another brand. Oh gosh, it's raining. You guys probably can't hear that, but just like it kind of sounded like
we stopped talking and it just like came down. Should we look at the comments then?
Yeah, let's have a look, see what you guys think, because
we could talk about this all day.
We could, but I think.
Can you guys hear that rain?
They probably can't hear it. So I mean, the whole thing here is we need to try and find other ways. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
Trying to find other ways to achieve the same result. You know,
I think
if you want things to be carbon neutral or zero emissions and what have you, we need to find other ways of doing it, because at the moment everyone just thinks electric, and I disagrray with that frame of mind entirely.
We need to be not so blinkered with our.
Let's say hello to everybody. Let's have a look here. Yes, Don't Start Gaming, good to see you, mate. How you doing? PTFS Clips, good to see you. Who else? Steve, good to see you, mate. How you doing? ZX14R Lifan, good to see you, mate. How you doing? Who else? Who else have we got in the chat today?
I think that's it.
I think that's everybody, isn't it? All right, let's have a look. Don't Start Gaming. So we asked him earlier at the start of the show how he's getting on, because he had an accident a few months ago, and kind of where he's at the moment. So he says regarding recovery, it's going brilliantly. Range of movement is 85% ish of what I had before. Oh, that's really good. Strength is significantly lacking, but I can do push-ups again. Nice, good.
Awesome.
That's good.
Only 3, but I can't even do 1. So you're still ahead of me there.
I think I used to be really good at push-ups. I think today, if you just told me to do as many push-ups as I could in a row right now, I think I could probably push out 30 to 40 in a row. I think. But we do them every week, so at training, so you know, you kind of expect that, don't you?
Yeah.
PTFS Clips. So like an EGR on diesels. I don't. Do you know what that means? EGR.
I will have a
I
little
don't,
Google.
sorry, I'm not familiar with that. What are they called? Abbreviation. Yeah.
Exhaust gas recirculation. It's a method to control nitrogen oxides emissions, NOx, produced as a byproduct during the combustion process.
Yeah. That's the funny thing, isn't it, with diesels? Like 10 years ago in Europe, everyone was like, buy the diesels, they're going to be the future. and
now
it's
there's
nope.
Yeah, control zones, low emission zones, tax if you drive your diesel through somewhere.
I mean, to be fair, diesels actually, when it comes to synthetic fuels, kind of like a diesel engine actually makes a lot of sense, because traditional diesels will run anything. You can run them on chip fat. Old diesels, not modern diesels, but old diesels, you can run on anything. So if you're going to be able to, and thing is about diesel engines is that they are quite capable of sustaining the different sorts of pressures that you get from different kinds of fuel. So maybe it makes more sense actually to have a diesel-like engine running e-fuel.
I'm really sorry. It's a complete tangent. Has it got brighter in here? Or has it got darker outside so it looks brighter in here? No,
it's darker outside, yeah.
Because we look really orange.
Yeah, a giant rain cloud has come overhead, blocking the sun.
Sorry.
Dopestar Gaming. The thing about these fuels is that I'm sure they'll be super expensive. A tax on everything and fuel for vehicles that government don't want on the road. It's free real estate for them. To be fair, they when it comes to taxes, where they'll get taxed anyway, regardless. So I mean, is it this year, end of this year, something like that, is when they're actually going to start applying road tax to EVs as well? It's like electricity. Electricity. I guarantee you that if you go to an electricity point, they will charge you VAT on that electricity. They will charge you energy duties or something like that on those charging stations. So really, it doesn't matter what kind of energy you use to propel your vehicle. Councils, governments, they are going to charge taxes on any of it anyway. Even if it's not the case right now, it will happen in future. You can be pretty sure about that. PTFS clips. The old Porsche engines should run on e-fuel, hence why Porsche is pushing it a lot. Oh, okay. I didn't know that, to be honest.
I didn't know that.
No, I heard kind of on the grapevine that Porsche were the ones that were really pushing it. I probably saw it on an article, but it didn't really explain why they were pushing it so much. So I suppose, I mean, if Porsche are really putting in that development into these engines for e-fuel, then of course it would make sense for them to push it in the media, wouldn't it? Yeah, I suppose that makes sense. Dubstar Gaming. With older motorcycles before 1995, I'm sure they wouldn't be able to work with synthetic. Hell, they wouldn't run E5. Yeah, it's true. It's true. They wouldn't. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I think E10 fuel. I think it's any engine that has fuel injection can run on E10 fuel in theory, but in the 90s, a lot of motorcycles in particular, they didn't have fuel injection. They were carbureted. So you can't run your like Suzuki Bandit, for example. You can't, or your the original Hayabusa, maybe, I can't remember. But yeah, Suzuki Bandit as a prime example, the old one. You can't run it on E10.
No.
Maybe you can. Maybe the manual would say you can or something, or maybe you could have a look at it online. Because I think there's a government website that will tell you whether or not a certain brand can, or a certain car can run on E10. So you could always check that out as well. But I mean, that's the funny thing, isn't it? I mean, I imagine you can only get E5 now in like Shell garages or BP garages, places.
E5?
E5, yeah.
Some of the supermarkets have E5 and E10.
Do they?
In separate.
I didn't know
diesel.
that.
So when you yeah.
No. Are you sure you don't mean super fuel E10 and diesel?
No,
That's usually how it is.
I know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
At Morrison's, it's E5, E10 diesel.
Interesting.
That's why I always open up my thing and I'm like, what can I have? And I look and then I get.
Because I've not noticed that before. And you say at Morrison's as well, because I use their pump stations a lot.
Either Morrison's or Sainsbury's, because the one I went to recently was E5, E10 diesel.
Interesting.
Some of them are just like E10 super fuel, and I have to really check which one I'm picking up.
Usually that is how it goes.
100% seen it. E5, E10 diesel.
Okay.
I would say I'll take a picture of it, but I'll get told off, so I won't. So I just have to tell you where it is.
Yeah.
But...
Okay. Well, at least getting hold of E5 isn't such a big deal. But yeah, I mean, then you're looking at cars, motorcycles or cars older than that. They can't even run an E5. So where do you get those kinds of fuels? 100%.
God knows.
100% unleaded petrol. Who knows?
We have to have a license and go to a shady man down alleyway. And...
Yeah. Yeah, Steve. Imagine having a diesel bike. That does exist. I can't remember. I think it was Suzuki, but it was a manufacturer that built a diesel motorcycle. I'm sure. I don't think it was mass produced, but as like a concept bike. But it doesn't make a lot of sense because diesels they produce a lot of torque. They don't produce a lot of horsepower. That's why they are good fuels for things like trucks and things, just because it makes it easier pulling things. The one thing I really wish here in Europe we had more of are pickup trucks that run on petrol, run on gasoline, not diesel. Every single truck in Europe, and even a lot of SUVs as well, they run on diesel. Can you imagine having like a truck that, because it just make it so much cheaper on tax and fuel. It's really annoying because all the pickup trucks and things like that you find in the United States, they all run on gasoline. They all run on petrol, all of them. Stupid. I wish they had that in the UK. Because as far as I'm aware, you can't find any Toyota Hilux in petrol in the UK. You can't find what Nissan Navaras. You can't find them in petrol form. The Ford Raptors, you can't find them in petrol form. They're all diesel, I think. Because you remember when I was looking at getting a new car, I would like to get a pickup truck, but none of them run on petrol. Unless they're imports from the United States. So dumb. But yeah, there you go. ZX14 Lifan. Hi, comrade. Fortunately, I don't speak English well. I watch despite everything. Your videos are the same passion for the same motorcycle, the missile ZZR 1400 ZX14. Thank you, mate. Yeah, that's good.
I love it's called the missile.
Yeah.
That's great.
It is, to be fair. That's a pretty good description. Steve, hybrids are heavier, so less MPG. That's true. Yeah, because you got to have a full-on engine and a battery. So yeah, that's true. Yeah, hybrids. I think hybrids are stupid. Personally, I don't. It's like is it Kawasaki that released their hybrid recently? A hybrid motorcycle. It's just a parallel twin.
I don't know.
Like, come on, man, that's so dumb. Hybrids, no, stupid. I mean, to be fair, the plug-in hybrids, they make a little bit more sense because they do actually run 100% off the battery. The petrol engine that they have is just for recharging the battery. So if your battery runs out, then that's when the petrol engine kicks in, but just to recharge the battery. It doesn't run off the engine at all. Who was it that was... I think, was it Mazda? Yeah, it was. Mazda have released a car recently with another rotary engine. Like, everyone's like, oh my god, yeah, rotary engines are back. Because the old RX-8 had a rotary engine. It was like a 1.3 litre engine that ran like 9,000, 10,000 RPM.
No, Google.
And they're really cool engines, but they wore out really quickly. But with this new car, instead of the rotary engine actually powering the wheels, it's just a generator. Just a small generator. So, yeah. So no, rotary engines are not back. They are dead for good.
Yeah.
unless they are for charging batteries, effectively. Yeah.
MX-30.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's a new one. Dopestar Gaming. I may be fundamentally misunderstanding here, but I think that biofuels and even regular petrol are the options that companies will push before e-fuels. They'll try, they won't succeed. The issue that, because again, biofuels, even though you're recycling things like oils, like chip fat again, you're still producing emissions. And the thing that these governments are trying to avoid is producing these anything that produces emissions, they want to get to this like net zero thing, don't they? So any emissions that they produce are then somehow in whatever ways are then supplemented by ways of removing emissions from the atmosphere. So it's supposed to be this whole thing where nothing is allowed to produce emissions whatsoever. Very, very tough target, but unfortunately, with biofuels and petrol, whatever kind of fuel you use that you use to burn something, it's going to produce an emission, and that's what they're trying to get rid of. Which is why e-fuels are supposed to be this kind of answer to that issue, because any fuel that you burn, you're going to be able to resynthesize back into more fuel. And so, in theory, it's supposed to be zero emission, but like I said, I'm a bit skeptical whether or not they actually are 100% emission free, so to speak, or at least net zero emissions. Steve, in Asia, like Japan, India, do they have to do the EV thing? No, they don't. In a lot of these kind of developing countries, they don't have any plans to introduce net zero emissions or anything like that. So things like cars and things aren't affected in those countries. Even the United States, they have their rules are so much more relaxed when it comes to the phasing out of ICE for electric. It's a far slower process. Europe is the biggest issue, but Europe is the catalyst. That's the problem. So when Europe says, right, we're going to commit to something, then all of a sudden it puts pressure on the rest of the world to follow suit. It's like China. I really doubt that China are going to go ahead with their target. I think, is it 2040 or 2050 net zero target, something like that. I doubt they're going to commit to that because, again, their industry relies a lot on burning coal and gas, more so than Europe, and probably more so than the United States as well. So you kind of struggle to imagine how China would be able to do that. But again, their targets are far less stringent than the European ones are. Yeah. But no, countries like India, Russia. Well, I don't know about Russia actually. I'm pretty sure Russia is exempt from this as well. Well, I say exempt. They're choosing not to get involved in it.
Ignoring it.
South American countries, Mexico, African countries, they don't care about emissions. They got bigger problems to worry about. Emissions is a very first world problem for us, because we have this luxury to do it. But no, in countries like India and even China to some extent, their motivation for being net zero is a lot less than ours, to be honest with you. So, but yeah, maybe 2100, something like that, these countries will start looking into these alternative ways of getting people around, but not for the foreseeable future anyway. Are they going to change all that much? Steve, Toyota CEO said no more EVs. They are done with them. Yeah, I think Toyota are kind of all in with the whole hybrid electric thing instead of hydrogen electric over electric, because hydrogen electric, the problem with hydrogen is it's very efficient and it works, and the batteries, you don't need a big battery to run a hydrogen electric car, but they don't produce a lot of power. They'll be very good economy cars, family cars, things like that. City cars for sure. But when it comes to just raw performance, just a pure battery powered car is going to be a lot more powerful, have a lot more horsepower, a lot more torque than a hydrogen electric. So we'll see what Toyota comes out with in the future when if they're going to totally avoid kind of battery EVs. We'll see. But yeah, Toyota again, they one of those companies that just are totally innovating and trying to look for alternative ways, and I think that's a good thing. I think every manufacturer should be looking at other ways of propulsion for sure. They're still gaming, and EVs are boring. I think it depends on the type of EV. If you have a go in a high performance EV, I think you change your mind. But they are expensive.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like driving around a Nissan Leaf. You are, you know, when you are in one of these, even like the Tesla Model 3, they are stupid quick.
He just licked me in the eye.
Nice. So I don't think they are necessarily boring, but at the same time, I do see what you mean, because the experience is a bit different to just an EV motorcycle, for example, is going to have a totally different experience to just an ICE motorcycle, not just in terms of the sound, but just the way they're going to ride is going to feel totally different. And the thing is about the EV motorcycles, because we're going to have to try and find a way of packing in a load of batteries into the motorcycle itself. I wonder if that's going to make the motorcycle quite top heavy. I don't know.
Oh yeah, can you imagine?
Maybe. Well, we might actually end up finding that motorcycles might get totally redesigned to account for the battery sizes that are going to be needed. Like, imagine if we're all riding around on the Batman motorcycle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Things like that. It's a totally different design, but a design like that is bigger, longer, may be better for batteries, for just massive battery cells. Who knows? Those again, would rather have a 125 for the rest of my life than an EV. So that's really funny actually that you say that, because 125s I think actually are a really, really good alternative to buying an EV motorcycle. Because if you're going to use an EV motorcycle, the main thing you're going to use it for, because the range isn't going to be great, it's going to be city riding.
It's going to be a commuter, isn't it?
125s are already perfect for city riding, and when you're getting 80 mpg and up on modern 125s, you know, it's a no-brainer. When you think that, I don't know, like a 125 tank is like 10 litres, 9 litres, and you can probably ride close to 200 miles on that single tank.
Yeah.
Even through city riding. So, yeah, they do make a lot of sense. Dubstar Gaming, I'm just glad that ICE vehicles aren't banned by 2035. I'll gladly ride a 15-year-old H2 in 2050. Then again, I might have a little bit of back pain then, but yeah, we'll cross that bridge when it comes. Yeah. I think a lot of us are going to be doing that same thing. We're going to be running our ICEs into the ground.
It's the next comment that's got me giggling a little bit.
Dubstar Gaming. Now, what's wrong with driving hydrogen bombs? Yeah. Well, there is that, I suppose. But have you seen the videos from Toyota about... Because the thing about the hydrogen thing is that people worried about the whole safety, like you say, you know, just driving around a bomb. And actually, the tanks that they've designed actually are quite safe. They've even done videos of shooting guns into the tank, into a full hydrogen tank, and it didn't explode. So, you know, I don't. For me, the whole hydrogen thing, I don't think the safety is that much of an issue. But it's like all the time, isn't it? Whenever you see like cars in movies, they always explode when they crash or something like that. That never happens. If you throw a car off of a cliff, it won't explode at the bottom.
It won't work anymore, but it won't.
It won't work, but it won't explode. No. Steve, petrol infrastructure has been around for more than 100 years. Does that mean we'll have to wait yet another 100 years for EV infrastructure to be as good and refined? Exactly. We will probably have to wait for a very long time for that. And I mean, like you kind of saying about the whole infrastructure, if e-fuels are going to be the future, then we already have the infrastructure there to pump e-fuel.
What they're going to have to do otherwise, if they don't do e-fuels, and let's just say eventually petrol's banned completely, they're going to have to repurpose those petrol stations into charging stations.
I have no doubt that's going to happen anyway. Within the next 10 years, you'll probably end up finding that 2/3 of a forecourt will be EV charging stations, and the remainder is going to be petrol and diesel.
There better be a cafe there, because I'm not sitting in my car for 2.5 hours waiting for it to charge like an absolute numpty.
Yeah. I don't know. I still think that in the near future there's going to be some kind of battery tech that's going to make its way into mass production, where charging, you'll get a full charge in 5 minutes. Even 10 minutes. If you can get a full charge in 10 minutes, I think that's good enough.
They will make, you know, those power banks you get for your phone? They make big ones of those, pull it out your car, Pop it in. Half an hour later, you're good to go.
Yeah, right.
That'll be it. That's my idea.
Or everyone's going to be carrying around like a little petrol motor.
And the car's going to be like this.
Little petrol motor to recharge the batteries, yeah. No, we'll see. CC, good to see you, mate. How you doing? Oh yeah, Dope Style Gaming. I wonder what happens when the National Grid has an obsolete. Has an oopsie.
Obsolete.
Sorry, I read that totally wrong. Then again, if that happens, I think there's going to be a few more pressing issues than charging my Tesla. Yeah. Well, yeah. Thing is, though, I mean, even right now, don't petrol pumps use electricity to power the pumps anyway?
Well, yeah. Otherwise, how do you know how much we're spending?
Well, not even that. Just the physical pump to pump the fuel into your car. I think they run on electric anyway.
Could be aerosol for all I know. I have no idea.
Yeah. Steve playing the world's smallest violin. Yeah. Dope Style Gaming. I'm surprised that Flint's not freaking out at the rain. Has seen his hair. It's fair share of storms, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't like being out in the rain, does he?
He's a weird dog.
Oh, it's so weird.
He'll get freaked out by really weird things, and then things like the rain, he doesn't care. Even fireworks, he's not actually that.
He's not too bad, is he?
No, not like some dogs.
And there's just some really weird things that you think that's just a normal thing, and it freaks him out entirely.
Yeah, Dope Style Gaming. Are we gonna have to mail order E5 petrol in future? Yeah, probably.
No, I think it's gonna get to the point where it's gonna be like you'll have petrol dealers down shady alleyways in the dark.
Well, that's already a thing.
Like, give me a gallon.
That's already a thing. People
bring your own jerry can.
There is an underground, a black market petrol.
That's very Fast and Furious.
Black market. You can buy petrol off the black market where you're obviously avoiding all of the taxes and things like that. But it's not E10. It is other fuels that people make in their garages, basically. It's illegal. It's totally illegal. And if you get caught, you'll get fines and things like that. But yeah, people that does happen. That is a thing that already exists. Black market petrol.
Yeah.
Can
you imagine? Sorry, I just had a really funny thought. You know, like in the Mad Max set in the future, and you have all these cars. Imagine that but electric. It loses the same feeling, doesn't it?
It would be one boring ass movie.
All these films in the future where you've got like Fast and Furious, electric.
Yeah, no thanks.
Top Gun, electric. It won't be the same.
Instead of Fast and Furious, it'll be Fast and Zero Emission.
Yeah.
Fast and Net Zero.
Slow and emission free.
Yeah.
They won't be fast, will they?
Fast and Furious EV edition.
Yeah.
Oh no, that sounds so bad. The thing is, that's the thing. I don't think that we've even kind of like thought about yet is the kind of impact on culture.
Yeah.
The whole cultural impact of EVs. It's going to totally change the industry. And the culture.
It's like it's like when you watch Batman, he turns on his bike, you hear this.
Like how many people do you think are going to have a poster of a Tesla in their bedroom?
I had a Aston Martin in my bedroom as I grew up. That was my picture on the wall. I didn't have like. Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah. There's not going to be any movies out anymore with like around car culture.
Just imagine you're watching this film. There's a big biker gang. They're really angry. They go out and they start their electric bike up. It's not the same thing. And there's no roar. There's just this like dead silence, like tumbleweed.
Instead of like it being a V4 engine that you can hear, it's going to be like that high pitched electric whine. Like that as they move.
Yeah, exactly. But like in unison, like a bunch of bees or something.
Oh, it's so dumb. Yeah, to be fair, you are not wrong. Actually, the whole culture shock, I think, is going to be very real.
It's going to change.
Very real indeed.
Anyway, sorry.
John Talman, good to see you, mate. How you doing? Recently, and call on as well. Call on, good to see you. Recently put some. A little Molly V-twin specific fully synthetic oil in my Harley Sportster. Just took her for a spin in between the showers, and she running slick. That's good. That's cool. It's funny actually, isn't it? Because you kind of think that one of those Sportsters you think will run on conventional oil rather than fully synthetic. But yeah, I suppose Harley aren't that backwards, are they? Very, very nice. What else we got in here? John Talman. A tan pug dog.
Yeah, hold on.
Can't really see him.
There he is.
Mike's in the way. Yeah.
He doesn't know what's going on.
Oh, cool. I'm getting excited for track day on the 22nd. Oh, so cool. I need to do some track days, man. I really do. I mean, the closest track that we have to us is Silverstone.
Thruxton.
Well, yeah, Thruxton, but...
They do track days there.
They do?
Yeah.
But the distance isn't that different between the two.
About 20 minutes, yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
You know?
You'd rather be like, oh, I went racing at Silverstone, not I went racing at Thruxton.
I don't really mind. I do wish that in kind of like the West Country there was a racetrack, even if it was like in Wales. A racetrack would be nice in Wales. I know, unless there's some small ones that I don't know about, but we'll have to have a look. But yeah, love to do some track days, some track days. Yeah, nice. CC, how long will 3,000 litres of unleaded fuel last for my ZZR? Just plan on taking a few IBCs from work and filling them up. Well, the issue wouldn't be necessarily with the storage, would it? It would be with the fuel itself, because it'll go off.
Yeah.
Petrol goes off, unfortunately. That's something that I've not actually ever experienced, but there are people that will say, like, fuel will go off within a couple of months if you just left it. Through like COVID and that, where we none of us have been driving our cars for months on end.
Yeah.
Fuel hasn't been an issue. The fuel hasn't gone stale after a couple of months.
No. I think there were literally weeks where I didn't leave the house because I just got Iceland to deliver my food shop.
Yeah.
Because I could. I was like, well, I will. And my car was fine. Ow.
Oh, cool. We need more tracks here in the USA too. Yeah, thank the Karens, homeowner associations, and cops for making sure it doesn't happen now.
But then that's why street racing probably happens more, because there's nowhere for these people to go who want to race. Making the track
it's so backwards,
would actually allow people to go and do this somewhere that's safe.
It is so backwards. I don't understand. But Pete, that's the thing. You know, this whole like EV thing, it's not being driven by enthusiasts. You know, enthusiasts don't want it. We don't want it. It's all these people that are Green Party people. They're all just greenies, militant green people. Mm-hmm. And these are the ones that are pushing all these things. We enthusiasts don't care for it.
No, we do not care at all.
I mean, I'm happy to accept change, but as long as it's change in the right direction for everyone. Change in the right direction in terms of emissions, change in the right direction in terms of experience for the user, the end user. So it's, so it's not boring and it's not, I don't know. Things like racetracks, I really don't see an issue with racetracks. Come on. It's like, well, so what, you're going to bulldoze all the football stadiums now, are you? And all the rugby stadiums? I don't think so.
The thing is, it's a controlled area then. Away from the general traffic, the general public. Yeah. Oh, I don't. But it's like people go, oh, the noise. Well, it's like airports. They're blooming noisy, and yet people decide to live next to them.
That's the thing. People have a choice. You can live there or not. You don't have to move these places.
It's like I said when we were doing the Isle of Man TT show that we did. The people that live there are so aware that 1 week a year they cannot leave their house. They are in. It's like Christmas for 5 days. They just can't go anywhere, and they choose to live there because they know. I
was going to say though, for me that would be part of the attraction to moving there. Would be the TT every year.
Free tickets.
Yeah, free ticket.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
I'd actually convert the attic into a place where I could go up and get on the roof,
a viewing room, yeah.
and watch, and then charge people to come into my house.
My house.
And watch it. But you see what I mean? Like,
yeah.
People choose to live places. They know what's going on. It's not like, oh, I'll have, I'll have man.
It's like all the people that live around like Gatwick and Heathrow. And
they're aware of
and
this.
they're like, you decided to move there. You know there was an airport there. It's like they people blocked the whole Heathrow expansion, didn't they, or something like that?
Yeah, they
And it was
they were
because
trying
it's too noisy already, and it's like you live there.
But I'm not
You
being
choose to
funny.
live there.
If they want to go abroad, I bet they go to Heathrow.
Of course they do.
Well, exactly. So
course they do.
they need to complain when it suits them to complain.
People are morons, honestly. People don't know when they've got a good thing going. People don't know when...
People complain for the sake
It's
of
like-
complaining.
It's like in that episode of Gavin and Stacey, isn't it? Where what's her name? Pam is like
mast.
complaining about the 5G tower, the 4G tower.
Oh yeah, she says.
My phone signal's so bad around here.
She goes. She goes.
It's so stupid.
Pam, no, not Pam. Pat. She has to have the phone in the bathroom. That's the only place she gets signal. And Mike goes, funny that.
People don't know, do they?
No,
They
but
don't
also
know.
people like to complain for the sake of complaining.
In some respects, the status quo, everyone is happy with the status quo. In some respects, you know, people don't want to lose certain things that they like. You know, why would I have an EV if I could have a V8?
I think the last thing I'm going to say on it is we are the people that matter when it comes to who these decisions are being affecting, and we're the ones that don't have a voice.
Well, no, we don't matter. That's the problem. We don't matter. And the thing is that I bet you every single person that watches this show could probably have a better answer for these issues, these so-called issues that we have, than what these... Because, right, so people who are on the green side of the argument, you know, I think their motives are probably right, but the biggest issue is that it's becoming political. It's not for moral reasons. You know, they're doing things because they want power politically. They're politically motivated, not motivated by, you know, by the needs of society or by the needs of the people that they are trying to represent. I remember this is a general election. I think it was 2019 here in the UK. And my boss at the time, he voted for Green Party because there was no one else to vote for. And I'm like, that's just suicide. Can you imagine if we had a Green Prime Minister? Like,
Sorry.
it would be just horrendous.
I had a picture of the Grinch come into my head in a suit.
It would be awful.
He'd be green.
It would be awful. I don't think the Green Party should not be a party. The Greens should be like a political movement, not a party in Parliament. Come on.
In Brighton, there's a place called Kemptown, and it's Green Party, so it's nicknamed Hemptown.
Honestly, again, these bloody leftist people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not right wing or left wing. Also, I just. When something doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense, regardless of which side of the fence you're on. Everyone else is somewhere in the middle. The lefties are far too lefty these days. And you got the righties that are far too righty these days as well. Just no, there's no compromising in politics today. Yeah. I don't know. What are we going to do, eh? We're just simple folk that enjoy riding motorcycles. Well, there you go. But anyway, thank you ever so much for joining us on today's show, everyone. And thank you for your contributions in the chat. You guys are absolutely awesome. You guys make the show what it is. So yeah, thank you ever so much for that. And yeah, like I was kind of saying at the start of the show, that tomorrow's video is very sad and very embarrassing for me. So make sure to laugh at me, because you probably will. I made a silly mistake, which I shouldn't have done, but I'm not going to give any spoilers. You'll find out all tomorrow. The thumbnail will probably give it away, to be honest, because I've got an idea for a thumbnail already, and it'll probably give it away. But anyway, so hopefully we will catch you in tomorrow's video, but if not, I hope you'll have a fantastic weekend. And yeah, we'll catch you all in next week's live show. So yeah, thanks again ever so much for watching. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you all next week.
Ride safe.
This mouse, man. There we go. It goes to sleep too soon. Oh, that's right. I keep clicking on the wrong thing. We're hungry, all right.